Phil Hellmuth. 17 World Series of Poker bracelets, over 30 million in tournament earnings, and the same giant leak as the biggest fish at your local 2-5 game. I watched over 100 hours of Hellmuth in cash, and this leak bleeds money in today's games. I'm going to reveal what it is because I see players with this symptom at 2-5 and 5-10 every single day, wondering why they can't move up. I've made 7 figures playing poker and helped over 300 students earn millions more. We don't make income claims, we don't guarantee results, no. We just show you the exact lessons our top performers use to crush the exact games you play in. I gotta be honest, when it comes to tournaments, I know nothing. Check my hand in mop. But cash is what I live and breathe. So today, I'll break down Hellmuth's huge leak in cash, show you how to strip it from your own game, and most importantly, how to exploit it when you spot it in your player pool. So what is the leak? Fear. Are you saying Hellmuth plays scared? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I'm gonna show you how fear manifests itself in his game in 5 different ways, starting with number 1, fear of tough decisions pre-flop. All right, here we go. First hand, we're playing 100-200. Hellmuth is going to open under the gun with pocket Kigglies to 800. Keating in there on the button with any 2. Chamath is gonna come along in a small blind. I like that name, Chamath. Shamath is gonna come along in the small blind. And now Stanley Choi, one of the biggest boys, is going to squeeze in the big blind here to 5.2K. And I want you to look at this. Watch Hellmuth here, how fast he calls. Look at this, instant snap call here. Does not even consider the 4-bet for even a tiny little fraction of time. In this configuration, under the gun versus big blind in equilibrium, sure, pocket kings is supposed to be flatted most of the time here in this tight versus tight configuration. But we're playing against Stanley Choi, who is aggressive. We're playing on stream where players are going to 3-bet much wider. I think the thing that shocked me about this hand was there was absolutely no thought from Hellmuth here about a 4-bet in any world. And why is this a snap decision for him? Well, my guess here is because if he 4-bets and he gets 5-bet or jammed on here, he has a tough decision. He just wants to avoid tough decisions because he is scared to make them. Let me show you more examples. All right, we see here Keating is going to open from the cutoff, playing 100-200 again here. Keating just opening any 2 from the cutoff. I am sure this guy's just opening 100% of hands. Now we're gonna get Lex Veldhuis, who's going to call in the small blind here. Hellmuth peels ace king, and he just immediately flats in the big blind, and he is facing Keating opening any 2 from the cutoff. Veldhuis is going to be 3-betting aggressively from the small blind. He is a solid reg. Hellmuth just flats the ace king. So why is he flatting the ace king? Well, look, we're playing 100-200. He bought in deep for this game. He's sitting 500 plus big blinds deep. He just doesn't want to have to face a tough decision, either now if he gets 4-bet or later on in the hand if he has to go out of position against Keating and play deep. So instead of prioritizing making the play that wins the most money, which is definitely going to be 3-betting ace king here 100% of the time, he just goes with the flat here because he doesn't want to have to make a tough decision. We're playing 100-200 400 here, and we see Phil with ace king again going to open to 1100 from the hijack here. Barry's in there in the small blind. We could do a whole memoriam on whatever happened to that guy on Hustler. Now over to Ben in the third blind. He's gonna put on the squeezle, and look at this, look how quickly, look, he just folds ace king, 130 big blinds deep, folding ace king. Look, I'd understand if we were 300 or 500 or 700 big blinds deep, but at 130 big blinds effective to just be folding ace king to a squeeze, I don't get it. And we see the reveal here. Ben actually has 4 deuce offsuit. Again, I don't want to get too caught up in the results. Sure, Ben had 4 deuce here. He doesn't want to have to make a tough decision, so he's letting fear guide his actions. All right, next hand, 100-200 400. Jungle Man is going to open from early position. We're gonna get a Mike X 3-bet from the cutoff. One of the nicest dudes in poker. I love Mike X, great guy. And over to Phil in the straddle. He's just gonna cold call with pocket jacks versus an open and a 3-bet. Once again, 60 big blinds deep here, and he's cold calling with jacks. You guys know I'm not a fan of cold calling 3-bets. The reason why I don't like cold calling 3-bets is we're not gonna have the initiative post flop. It turns our range face up because if we're cold calling hands like jacks or queens or ace king, that means when we cold 4-bet, we pretty much just have aces and kings. That's really it. Maybe only aces. When an aggressive pro opens from early position like Jungle Man, we're just giving the green light to Jungle Man here to go for the 4-bet, just knowing that we don't have top of range. Don't really love this cold call. My only guess here, he just doesn't want to have to make a tough decision. If he puts in the 4-bet, well, now he's got to do some thinking, and he doesn't trust himself to do the good thinking. All right, we're gonna see Fora limp from early position here. Mickey, who has he's just recently figured out how to peel the cards to look at them. I'm not sure if he can decipher for what's on them yet, but he has figured out how to peel them. Mickey is going to raise to 450, and we see Phil just jams for 6.8K here. I don't want to have to make a decision. I don't want to have to play post flop. I'm just going to put the money in because I am terrified to make decisions and I do not trust my decision-making process. Look, it's against this guy, Mickey, professional gambler who does not even know how to spell poker, who's going to make egregious mistakes post flop. Phil just completely lets him off the hook here. This is the guy you want to 3-bet to a reasonable size, so he calls because this guy's just going to punt in every and all situations. He's going to punt. Look at this. We see Mickey actually has ace 4 here, and Phil just lets him off the hook. All right, the second way Phil Hellmuth lets fear manifest itself in his game is the fear of tough decisions post flop. Let me show you. All right, so Mr. Phil is going to open to 1100 with queen 10. We're playing 1, 2, 4. Board is going to call. That's a name, Board. Douglas Polk is in there in the third blind. And look at this. Hellmuth flops the nuts here. He's going to check. Board is going to stab at it because poker players tend to overstab and telegraph their hand strength with their size when we check to them. Polk is going to go for the check raise. And look at this. Hellmuth to a 7K check raise. He's just going to jam for 97K here. Polk check raises to 7. And he's going to check bet 3-bet to 97K. This can't be a bluff. He checks on the flop. It's a pre-flop raiser, and now he 3-bet jams to 97. The only explanation for this is because he doesn't want to have to play turns and rivers. He doesn't know what to do if the board pairs or if a spade rolls out, and he doesn't want to have to make that tough decision later. So to make sure he doesn't have to make that tough decision later, he just chops off his EV here. And look, this is against Doug Polk. This man, great poker player, but he's never made an exploit in his entire life, guys. This guy's Mr. I'm going to be balanced. I don't want people to exploit me. I am going to do what the solver says in this situation. And look at this, even Polk here, we're gonna reveal it. Polk has 10-7 for the second nuts, and Doug Polk is going to find the fold here because this line is so absolutely ridiculous. And once again, Hellmuth letting fear override actually making money. All right, next hand, I believe the $3,200 straddle is on in this one. And so Hellmuth is going to open to 15K here over the $3,200 straddle with pocket 10s. Stanley is going to call in the first straddle. That's going to bring along Keating, who has never met 2 cards he isn't going to play from the second straddle. Shameth is in the third straddle, and in the very fourth straddle, Stanley must have complete garbage here because he just snap folds. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to a flop, $63,000 in there, and Queen Jack 4 with a couple of diamonds going to check all the way over to our hero, Mr. Hellmuth, on the button, and with 63K in the pot with pocket 10s here, 4 ways, he is going to c-bet for 25K. I don't understand this. I don't get it. This is the definition of a monkey bet. What is a monkey bet? Well, a monkey bet is just you don't know what to do, so you put the chips into the pot. So why is this fear? Why is this fear manifesting itself? Because this is a situation where if he checks back, when someone comes out and bets on the turn, he's not going to know what to do, and he's not going to trust himself in that situation with an underpair to the board to make a good decision. So he just wants to c-bet now and quote unquote take it down. You see this from Fish all the time. Why are we c-betting pocket 10s here? 4 ways, right? And it's not because this is the highest EV play, it's because they don't trust themselves to make a sound decision later on. We see Stanley Tang here is going to check raise jam, and Stanley only started this hand about 46K effective, and Hellmuth put in already 25K, so he's getting an incredible price here, only about another 20K to call. Stanley had pocket aces, so he flatted the aces pre-flop, which actually pretty nice play here since he is short and he's got quite a few aggressive players behind him. Really, the only time you want to trap with aces are when you are short. Hellmuth is eventually going to hem and haw, and finally he is going to begrudgingly put in the call. He got himself into this spot. He wanted to avoid a tough situation, but coincidentally, he put himself in a shit situation. 5 of diamonds and a 5 of clubs. They're going to run it twice, and we are going to see a 4, and Hellmuth going to need a 10 and only a 10 here. Not going to get it, and he is going to get scooped because he is a fearful little baby. Same situation again here. We see Fora and Mickey limp. Phil is going to ISO to 500 with pocket Quigglies here. Ben is in there. Mickey trying to figure out what do these chips mean? Where do I put them? Do I put them over here? What is a chip? How do I pick them up? I'm still learning how to use my fingers. Ace and a king on the flop. It's going to check over to Phil, and once again, he's just going to monkey bet because he doesn't want to have to make a tough decision on the turn. He monkey bets now. He just wants to take it down. If he does get called, I'm guessing he's just going to check back the turn. Why is he betting? Because he doesn't want to have to make a tough decision. Is this profitable? No. He shows it like it's some kind of magical bluff or magical value bet. Which is it? No one really knows. Phil doesn't even know. He just wanted to take it down. All right, another example. Sonny is going to open from the cutoff. Phil's in there from the big blind with pocket deuces. They call them ducks. I'm still wondering why they call them ducks. I've never been able to figure that one out. 9-7 queen, gonna go check quickly. Turn is a jack, and we see this. Phil just comes out and bets. Why is he betting here with pocket deuces? I don't know. Now the river's a 5, front door flush comes in, and Phil actually going to come out and bet again. And look at this, he actually gets called by ace high, so he gets value from 2 streets here. So what do I know? Nothing. But like overall, again, process over results. Is this going to be a profitable play long term? Why are we monkey betting when the flop goes check? We could check on the turn and let Sonny go ahead and bluff on this wet dynamic board when he checks back the flop. Use our hand as a bluff catcher, or we could check on the turn, and if he bets, we could turn our bluff catcher into a bluff and get him to fold everything. But no, Phil doesn't take either of those routes. He just decides to come out and monkey bet because he doesn't want to have to make a tough decision. So you guys know I talk about fear a lot. I believe it's the #1 thing holding most players back. Because here's the thing about fear in poker. It is incredibly expensive. Take Shane, who now works with Hungry Horse and is our director of student onboarding. A couple years ago, Shane was a 2-5 player making about $40 an hour. He was trying to get to $100 an hour so he could save up and buy a house with his wife. When he found Hungry Horse, he wanted to jump into our program, but he hesitated for a year because of uncertainty around the price. He let fear hold him back from improving his game. When we finally talked, I told him straight up, every hour you play without the skills to earn $100 an hour, you are lighting $60 an hour on fire. See, he'd already played nearly 1,200 hours that year at $40 an hour. If he would have been making $100 an hour, that's nearly $72,000 in missed profit. That was the push he needed. After working with us, he didn't hit his goal. He actually went way beyond it, and in the 1,000 hours since, his average just under $150+ an hour. He ended up buying the house with his wife, and the renovations he paid for in cash. Now, Shane's results aren't typical, and there's no guarantee you'll see the same. Your results will depend upon your effort, volume, and factors outside of our control. But the lesson here, don't let fear of what might go wrong stop you from making the absolute best possible decision for your game. The third way fear manifests itself in Hellmuth's game is a fear of looking foolish. So let me explain. So look at this. At a table with Mickey, who's just learning how to use crayons, we've got Blank Check Ben, we've got Mike, we've got Fora, and a bunch of other characters who definitely are not trying very, very hard to win at poker. Phil buys in for $5,000 in a 25, 50, 100 game. Buying in for 50 big blinds in a game full of people who have no idea how to play poker, and he is supposed to be the professional. He's supposed to be the guy who is earning money from this, but buying in for 5K because he has this innate fear of looking foolish when deep. He doesn't want to make a big blunder. He doesn't want to make a bad decision. So instead, he just clips all of the EV he should be earning in this lineup and buys in incredibly short instead because he just doesn't want to look like a dummy. All right, next example here. Tom Dwan is going to open from the button here, and we are going to see Phil just flat in the small blind with Queen Jack suited. And if we look at his stack here, he is in for 12K in a game with the $800 straddle on. So playing 15 big blinds deep in a game with Mr. Beast, Ninja, and a bunch of other YouTube characters who are definitely not there to win money at poker. And you guys hear me talk about, well, we want to flat our strong hands when a pro opens to let in the recreational players behind, but not when a strong player opens on the button and we're in the small blind looking down at a suited connector and we're 15 big blinds deep, right? Again, fear of looking foolish. He is buying in shallow because he doesn't want to look like a big idiot, but he ends up looking like a big idiot. All right, here's a fun one. We're playing 200, 400. Phil's gonna open to 1500 with ace jack. Gonna get called by Barry and Sonny here. So we are going to go 3 ways to a flop. Queen 10, 6 with a couple of clubs. And Phil has a pretty nice hand here. Ace jack with the ace of clubs. So he's got a gutter to the nuts and the backdoor nut flush draw here. And in this spot with a pretty nice hand, 3 ways to start running a bluff here. Look at this, he's going to check back. So we're gonna see him monkey bet with queens on an ace king X board. We're gonna see him monkey bet with 10s on a queen jack X board, but 3 ways where he has more fold equity than 4 ways or 5 ways certainly. When he has more equity in his hand, he's got a gutter to the nuts. He's got the backdoor nut flush card, right? This is just a really good spot for him to run it. He's gotten called by 2 guys out of the blinds. We're gonna be calling super wide. He's gonna get a ton of credit here. He's gonna be able to barrel on so many turn cards. If a club comes, he can certainly keep barreling. If a king comes, he makes the nuts. If an ace comes, he makes top pair, right? He's just so many cards to continue barreling on. But here, I'm guessing his thinking is, well, I have a hand that can very easily call if my opponent comes out and bets on the turn. And he just doesn't want to bet here because he doesn't want to look foolish. If he gets check raised, what does he do? I don't know. Then he could look like a dummy. He doesn't want to make tough decisions. He doesn't want to look foolish. And so again, he just makes a much lower EV play.
Maybe our mics are too high.
Way up, okay.
Way up, I feel blessed. I live the life I deserve. Blessed. Fuck a vacay, I feel better at
Phil's been watching.
work. Blessed. Way up, I feel blessed.
Look, I don't know. I said he had a fear of looking foolish, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, the next way fear presents itself in Phil's game, and this is a big one. I see this one a lot, is a fear of not getting paid. So let me show you. So we see he is going to limp here from the hijack, playing 200, 400. Friedberg is going to call. JR is going to raise. Gonna bring along Keating in the big blind. Hellmuth is in there. And we're gonna go for the old limp re-raise with 7-6 of spades. Why are we doing this? JR is going to fold, but Keating is in there, so we are going to go heads up to a flop. Hellmuth in position as the limp raiser, and going to flop middle pair here, and he is going to elect to check this back, which is, it's fine checking this back. Now he just snap checks back the turn. He makes 2 pair on the turn. Look at this. Checks back the flop, and then binks the 2 pair. Look how quickly he checks back. Why are we checking back on this turn? He's got this image as a trappy guy, a nitty guy, so maybe the limp 3-bet is good. He can just get a bunch of fold equity with a hand like this that plays well post-flop if he's going to play well post-flop. The thing is, I just guess he's getting so far inside his head here. Well, the players think I'm nitty, so if I bet, they're going to fold. I finally made a big hand, so I can't bet. I don't want them to fold. I got to give them rope, so he checks back. This is just egregious. I see so many players who are struggling to break through at 1-2 and 2-5 do this. They make a strong hand and they just refuse to put money in the pot, just checking and praying and hoping. You have a good hand, just put money in. Here's the thing, if you thought your opponents were going to fold every time you breathe on the pot, you should be bluffing 10 times, 50 times more than you're bluffing right now, but Hellmuth isn't bluffing. The local guy struggling in your 2-5 game isn't bluffing, right? If you're not bluffing because when you have a bluff, you think, oh, they're not gonna fold. Well, that can't be true also when you have value, right? Either they're going to fold or they're not going to fold, right? So when you have value, just put money in the pot. River's going to bring a 4 in, bringing a 1-liner to a straight. Keating is actually going to come out and bet this river quite large. Look at this. He's going to go 50K on this river for an overbet. Hellmuth actually going to find a nice fold here, but even a scared mouse finds the right play. Once they see cheese, sometimes that's the expression, isn't it? All right, this one is egregious. This one really gets me. Let me explain why. We're gonna see J Boogs raise to 400 here. We're playing 51. Brazil God's gonna call. Stanley's going to call. It's gonna bring along Phil in the small blind with King 10 off. Nico's gonna come along as well in the big blind. So we are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways. Phil flops trips here. King 10 on a 9, 10, 10 board, and J Boogs, the pre-flop raiser, is going to check it over to Brazil God, who is going to take a stab at this 200 into 2100. Why? I don't know. Why the hell not, I guess. Stanley is going to call next to act. Phil is going to put in the check raise right now, which I like. I like this. Let's put in more money when we have a good hand. And now we're going to go over to J Boogs, the pre-flop raiser, and he is going to cold call. And if we were in this spot and got cold called by J-Boog, if we were bluffing here with a hand like Queen Jack or 7-8 or something like that, and we got cold called by the pre-flop raiser who checked and then called a bet in a raise on this flop, alarm bells would be going off in my head. I would be thinking, I do not want to bluff anymore. I am shutting it down. When J-Boog's cold calls, what does he have? Maybe occasionally he could have a boat here, but also he's just gonna have a ton of showdown value. Hands like ace-9, hands like queens, kings, aces. He's just gonna have a lot of good hands. And now we go to a turn which is the blankest of blanks, and Phil is going to snap check. Why are we checking here? Look, I understand he could have a boat some of the time. Okay, maybe he has pocket 9s or 10-9 suited once in a blue moon, but can't he just have ace-9, king-9 suited, pocket aces, pocket kings? So many more combos we beat. Phil's gonna check on this turn. It's going to go check, check. And now when we go to the river, I think this is even more egregious than checking the turn. Phil's going to go 1800 on a river 7. Here's why this river bet doesn't make sense to me. Why are we going 35, 40% pot on this river when J-Boog's cold calls on the flop, it's a pre-flop raiser, and then checks back on the turn? Well, he's not gonna have a boat. So what does he have? Well, he's probably not gonna have a hand like Queen Jack or 7-8 either, because those hands would just sometimes come out and bet the flop, or when it's checked to him on the turn, he would just start stabbing with those hands. So he's not going to have a draw. And even if he did have a busted draw, betting small isn't going to get Queen Jack to call. And why are we worried about 7-8 when so much of his range is just strong showdown value? Players check back on the turn because their plan is to call that big barrel on the river. So if we're targeting those type of hands here, why not just go big on this river? We need to be going massive. But again, Hellmuth, it's just fear I see all too often, this fear of, well, if I go too big, I'm not going to get paid, without even factoring, without even considering what is J-Boog's range here. We see J-Boog's going to put in the snap call. He actually has pocket aces here, and Phil is going to win the absolute minimum. And I see this mistake so often. It's players prioritize the dopamine hit of getting called. If I go small, if I go medium, I'm going to get called so much more, and it feels good. If we get called 2/3, 3/4 of the time when we bet small, it feels really good, because if we go big, the fact is our opponent's going to fold more. But that doesn't mean we're making less money. In fact, it actually means the opposite, because we could go 3x or 4x this size that Hellmuth chose, and even if J-Boog's just calls 30% of the time or 25% of the time, we're making more money in this spot, even getting called less frequently. All right, the final way fear manifests itself in Hellmuth's game, and this goes hand in hand with the last one. It's fear of getting pushed around. And usually players who have this fear of not getting paid, the more trappy players, they also have this fear. These two go hand in hand like Mickey and a coloring book. We're gonna see Hellmuth limp with King 10 offsuit from the hijack. We're playing 100, 200. JR is going to bump it up on the button, and over to Alan Keating here in the big blind, who has never met a hand from the blinds that he is not enamored with. We're going to go to a flop Ace Queen 8, and here on the flop, Hellmuth with a gutter going to check it over to the pre-flop raiser. JR, who is going to bet. Keating going to call next to act. Hellmuth going to come along with a gutter and the backdoor flush. Don't hate it. So far, so good. All right, going to a turn, which is a 7, and now at this point, Keating is going to check, and what is this? Hellmuth is going to donk on the turn. Why are we donking here? JR c-bet on the flop into multiple people on an ace-high double Broadway board, and Keating called next to act. We are not going to have even a shred of fold equity here. Not even a shred by coming out and donking. Donking minimizes fold equity. And besides, if we think JR is weak, why not check here, let him bet, and then go for the check raise? That's how to maximize fold equity. And now it goes even more off the rails. JR is going to raise to 19,000, and Hellmuth is like, oh nah, this guy's just, he raised pre-flop, he c-bet on the flop into multiple people, now I donked on the turn, he's raising. You know what, I'm gonna call with King High. If he thinks King High is the best hand, why the hell is he donking on the turn? Why not use it as a bluff catcher? He's gonna check on the river, and JR going to go 22K on this river. Hellmuth going to put in the very quick call with King High, and of course he has shown pocket queens here, the fear of getting pushed around, right? And we see how all of these kind of link together, this fear of getting pushed around. He doesn't want to look foolish, right? He doesn't want to look foolish, and all of these are kind of intrinsically linked, and they all connect back to being scared. Next one here, playing 100, 200. We're going to see Slime bump this up in the hijack. Slime, I like the name Slime. Is he affiliated with Young Thug? Mr. Beast is in there in the cutoff. XQZ gonna put in a little baby 3-bet, and Phil just like that, just snap cold calling the 3-bet. Doesn't consider any other option. You guys, we already talked about why I don't like cold calling the 3-bets. But this isn't even the worst part of the hand. Let's continue. That's gonna bring along Allen, gonna bring along Slime, gonna bring along Mr. Beast. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to the flop, 3 overcards to Phil's pocket 9s here. And this one is going to check all the way around to the button to Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast going to take a stab at it here, gonna go 10,000 into 25K. That is going to knock out XQZ. And now we see Phil here again, not even thinking, Mr. Beast, I know this guy has never played poker before, but he just bet into 4 other people 5 ways on this flop, and Phil is continuing with pocket 9s. What are we doing? He doesn't want to get pushed around. He doesn't want to let a player who he deems as inferior in poker skill to him, which is up for debate. And so he's just going to call. He's going to take a stand here. We're gonna go to the turn, which is a blank. It's going to go check on the turn. Now to the river. Phil checks it over once again. Mr. Beast is going to bet on this river. Looks like 25K on this river. Phil not even gonna think, he's going to put in the call here. Look at this, he makes Mr. Beast show first, and Mr. Beast has a queen here for second pair. Phil getting hot and heated here. He's gonna take off the jacket, just paying off 2 streets with 4th pair here to Mr. Beast on a triple Broadway board. We talk about triple Broadway boards are massively under bluffed. Just hard to find the bluffs on a triple Broadway board. Hard to find the bluffs when you bet into 5 people on the flop. But Phil doesn't want to be pushed around, so he's in there. Next one, Phil gonna over limp from early position with King Queen. Look at all these faces in there. We got Johnny Vibes, we got Masato, we got Berkey. This is a fun old school lineup here. And Phil is going to flop top pair here. Going to check over to him. He is going to bet here in this limped pot. He's gonna go 700, and we are going to see Bill Klein go for the check call here. Candy just going to fold, and we're gonna go heads up to a turn. Pot is 1900. Bill Klein now just going to come out and donk for an overbet when a straightening card comes in. And yeah, Bill Klein is action, right? This guy is action, but this is just under bluffed, right? He called with players still left to act behind him on the flop. So he's got to have something. Now he's coming out and donking for a overbet size on the turn. And let's talk about why this is so under bluffed. It's under bluffed because where do players trap the most? When they are next to act after a bet on the flop and they still have players left behind them, they will trap even big hands like 2 pair sets in that situation because they want the players behind them to come in even on a wet dynamic board. Phil, of course, is going to call. Now we're going to go to a river, which is the innocuous 3 of clubs, and Bill Klein going to come out again and overbet donk on the river. This time he goes 8K into 5.9. Phil doesn't love it, but he doesn't want to be pushed around, so he puts in the call and gets shown Bill Klein's pocket 9s. If you are tired of letting fear run your game, just like Hellmuth, that's what our 5-day Basecamp was built to stop. We will help you build a repeatable thought process so you're making the highest EV decision in every possible spot, and you feel more confident and there's no more second guessing every time you sit down at the table. Remove the fear from your game. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and it turns you into the biggest boy possible. Thank you guys and have a gentle